Hey, today I am here and I just got a message on the Hive Workshop. This nice guy, Grendel, he says, "Hi, I just wanted to ask how do I merge two animations into one model? I watched your video tutorials on YouTube, but I can't seem to merge a Lich and Crypt Fiend animation. He wants the Crypt Fiend bottom half animation to play, while the top half plays the Lich. So let's just go ahead and do this right now. To help with my example, I went ahead and re-downloaded the exact version of the Matrix Eater that's available online publicly, just so that I know that I'm not using any features from my own personal code base. I do already have it configured, so it's going to know where to find the Warcraft files. You can find tutorials on that. But what we're going to do here is we're going to grab the Crypt Fiend, and then once that loads, we're going to also grab the Lich. So here we got the Crypt Fiend. I don't know why I clicked this tab instead of the other one. Does not matter. Oh, okay. The Lich is listed under Kel'Thuzad Lich. Why did I not just click the Lich? Okay, here we go. There's two different. You can load your models however you want. All right. Well, let's get in here. Let's start cutting this shape data apart. So here's our Lich. I think what I'm figuring is we're probably gonna hone in on most of this lower stuff. I could make another tutorial for you about Hero Glow if you care about that. So I'm gonna be getting rid of the Hero Glow here, and I'm gonna focus on what happens if I delete the bottom sections of the Lich, and I want to put that into the Crypt Fiend. So we're going to take this. I think maybe I'll just try to get all of the black stuff. So let's just see if I can do that here. We'll be grabbing as much of this as possible. We'll just grab it there. So you can see I accidentally got one of the hand glows. Now we probably want the hand glows, right? We'll have a hand on that Crypt Fiend here. So I got more of the cape. Looks like we got two more cape pieces here. So we got rid of those. All right. So now I basically have the top half of the Lich. So this is going to be, we're going to put this here as sort of the top jutting out of the Crypt Fiend. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab the Crypt Fiend here and try to eliminate all of that. So now you can see we have a base here that the Lich is going to attach onto. And we might also want to start looking, what are the names of our nodes? This is chest, leg, front, right, arm, 1, body, front, arm, 2. Alright, I can definitely tell you I have not done this before. I am simply perfectly confident that it will work. So, kind of, I'm learning things as we go along here, but it looks like bone chest is going to be our target. So that is, yeah, it looks like there's arm data, it seems, but for the most part, it's attached to the chest. The Lich has horrible, I remember this, I've worked with Lich models before, has horrible naming conventions. In terms of the stuff, I almost wondered to actually have, yeah, we do have rename here. I think cylinder 1 is actually kind of like chest on the Lich. So we're going to call that I'm going to name things with the letter X, so I know that I named them. X chest. Okay, cylinder 4 here is like getting closer to like the pelvis. I think cylinder 3 is probably X pelvis. Literally just Blizzard didn't do this. They didn't name these things when they made this. So we might help ourselves. We have a couple names in there. Let's see. This is like spine, probably. I think. I hope that I'm correct. I'm definitely, hopefully close to correct. Let's see. This is gonna. We probably don't care about, like, when we splice them together. I don't think we're gonna care about much besides those three. Everything else in the Lich is probably correctly built to begin with. So the other thing we're going to do here, that's always a convenience for this, when we splice the two models together, we're going to have a bunch of stuff, a bunch of these nodes that are sort of a little bit annoying to kind of scroll through, find, and move around. So we're going to want to be dragging the Lich as a single body. So to do that, I'm going to move the Lich off in 3D space so that when the two models come together, I'll be able to just select everything to do with the Lich and drag it in and sort of be then positioning with my mouse where on the Crypt Fiend the Lich will go. So to do that, here I have the Crypt Fiend, and I'm just going to do import from workspace. I'm going to import this Lich that I was working on here, Hero Lich. We're going to bring that guy up, and let's talk about what we're seeing here. So the first tab is always the geosets, is just the geometry, right? So we can, sort of forget about all this pink stuff. The first tab is definitely just going to be the shapes of this guy and the shape information on the Lich. To that end, we probably want everything. We got to think about what's our death animation going to be, right? What does this guy look like when he dies? We probably want the Crypt Fiend for that because I think it'll look better. So I guess maybe we don't want the sort of wraps that cover the Lich as he dies in a Lich way. That might also be true of this sort of flash glow down here. So I would say we can omit Geoset 10 and Geoset 3, but this is it's an artistic choice here how you're going to do that. So let's go ahead. So if I go to 10, I can uncheck the box. I can go to 3 and uncheck the box, right? And that's then telling this thing, don't import those. When I click any of these boxes on the left, right, I've probably seen this before, they link their texture information, and that's all just going to merge automatically. So one of the important things then is going to be the animations. So maybe it'd be good if these were labeled better. But on the left here, we have Lich animations, and on the right, we have Crypt Fiend animations. And when I click timescale into pre-existing, this is saying merge those animations. Make the Lich animate during the Crypt Fiend animations. So I'm sort of coupling together, and then it gives me this choice box where I can say, which animations of the Crypt Fiend will the Lich's stand be copied into? So I'm copying Lich stand into Crypt Fiend stand. And we can go and we can do that for all of these various animations as much as they line up. Sometimes you find one like stand ready that the Crypt Fiend doesn't have, but the Lich does. We can uncheck the box, and that'll just sort of throw away the stand ready of the Lich. And then afterwards, if we wanted it, we would have to re-import it, go through some process to bring stand ready of the Lich back into the Crypt Fiend. So another option, if you had a tool to duplicate like the Crypt Fiend stand animation and create a Crypt Fiend stand ready that was the same, you could bring in the Lich's stand ready if you wanted to do that. I'm not going to do that today because I didn't prepare it in that manner. My Crypt Fiend doesn't have stand ready. So we have walk here. We're going to link those, right? That makes sense. Crypt Fiend doesn't really have stand channel. You know, the Lich's stand channel is pretty cool, though. I kind of wish we could... Should we try to give the Crypt Fiend stand channel? Should we try to do it? I would have to... All right. Maybe I'll make another tutorial for that. Let's start with the basics. Let's start with the basics. All right. So we're not going to do stand channel, but we'll get attack. That'll be good. If we're not going to get stand channel, then I almost think maybe we don't really need some of the other stuff. Although if we import it, we'll import it anyway. All right. Just thinking about it, some of the glow planes and things like that. So Crypt Fiend also doesn't have spell, so we just have attack right now. So we have walk and attack. So death, we'll probably just bring that in. So this is where sometimes I would start to wonder, when we already have the Crypt Fiend's death where it falls over, would we want to not use the Lich's death where he shrinks and sort of avoid that shrinking by saying instead that maybe we do the Lich's stand during the Crypt Fiend's death, right? So I can control click here. Oh, that was more. Control click here, do stand. And so what I'm doing now is I'm telling the computer that the Lich's stand will copy into two places. There'll be two copies of the Lich's stand. One in the Crypt Fiend stand and one in the Crypt Fiend death. So we do that, and that'll kind of make the Lich, sort of passively animate while the Crypt Fiend body falls over in the death animation. Other than that, I guess we could try to copy the Lich's dissipate into some of these decay animations. That also might not look good, so we might be better to actually put stand in there too. Just so the Lich body just looks sort of Lich-ish as he falls. As far as morph, we could probably put... let's put the Lich's spell. Maybe it'll look good. I don't know. I'm not sure if that'll look good, but we'll see. Stand alternate, right, is going to be the Crypt Fiend's burrow animation. And when he's burrowed, you don't want to see the Lich, so we're just going to leave that blank. Then with bones, so this is going to be the really tricky part, right? The bone splicing, because we need the Crypt Fiend to be attached, or the Lich to be attached to the Crypt Fiend, right? The Crypt Fiend should move the Lich around when his base moves. So to that end, on the left here, we're seeing Lich components. On the right, this is the parenting information, so we see a list of both. This is our final model. But what you can also do is choose to leave some of these behind. Already, because I deleted some of the Lich mesh, if I click uncheck unused here, what it'll do is it'll choose not to import the nodes corresponding to things like the hero glow that I deleted. So that's a good starting point. So now everything in the Lich that is not used has been removed. And to do that, it walks through the entire Lich model, like all the particle emitters, all the different things, right? So it should only set them to do not import if they're truly not used. From that, then, we have the question, how do these attachments work in terms of the tree of bones? So this thing I called chest is attached to the spine. The thing I called spine is attached to mesh 1, and mesh 1 is linked to the root. So what I start to think, right, is that we could have, there's also pelvis that's linked to the root. which is interesting. I wonder how many things are linked to the root. So it looks like the things linked to root are those two. So what I would then do is, well, let's select the two of them, mesh 1 and X pelvis, and just say these two things, whatever those are, we're going to attach to the Crypt Fiend's front body. Now I think his body front is actually linked to bone chest. Like maybe we want to just go with bone chest of the Crypt Fiend. So we're going to say then that all of this Lich stuff is going to be linked onto that as its sort of root origin of motion. So that'll set the linking for those. Now if I click unchecked unused again, it should uncheck bone chest or bone root, the root of the Lich, automatically, because nothing in the Lich is attached to this anymore. And that's significant. If I click on check unused here and it's still imported bone root, then we would know that I have not found every part of the Lich linked to his main root and not linked every one of those to the Crypt Fiend. So this should then start that splicing where the two models are animating together. You also have the question of sort of these other information, like which sound does it play when it dies? This is the Lich death sound. We're going to go ahead and play the Crypt Fiend death sound because that seems reasonable. This is the spawn flash with the skull when an undead hero dies. I'm going to leave that out also. But again, that's artist choice, right? If you want to have some of that in there. As far as the various particles, I think this might happen during attack. I got rid of the death animation, so we're going to get rid of the death particles. So just particle 3, I think, might be the breath, the Lich breath when he's attacking. So we do want that. And that'll correctly, right, because we set up all the correct splicing, it should correctly splice in that breath particle of the Lich. And then we can also import the attachments. Now, if you want to be really careful at the end, I might forget at the end of this video, but if you wanted to be really careful with this model, if we import these Lich attachments, like the Lich's weapon, the Lich's head, which will correctly be linked and stuff, right? They're correctly attached to the Lich geometry here. If we do that, you're going to want to also go in and delete those attachments for the Crypt Fiend. Nothing we've done here has done that automatically, and if you don't delete those, the model could potentially have like 2 different head attachments, right, or 2 different weapon attachments from the 2 different models. So we've got that. Now I'm going to go into the visibility tab. Now this hopefully should be pretty simple. When we look at the Crypt Fiend, we've got these different things. So we know Geoset 1 is his main body, and what we want to do is we want to make the Lich use this Geoset 1 as the deciding factor of how he will be visible. So to that end, the Lich is trying to get its own visibility. What we actually, I think, want to do is set most of the Lich's stuff to use Crypt Fiend visibility. So to that end, if we look at like the main body of the Lich, these things should all disappear when the Crypt Fiend disappears as far as morph and stuff like that. All of these glow planes are just going to not be... the glow planes will probably just use the Lich's visibility data, right? And then we'll make sure that they're not visible in stand alternate. But I would say Geoset 1 and 2, we want to have those in, because there's special animation data. When the Crypt Fiend burrows, he probably disappears about halfway through after he's in the ground or something like that. We want this geometry to also disappear at that same time. So I'm going to link them, and then when I uncheck favor components original when combining, that checkbox is very specific to what we're doing. It's very specific to merging animations together. And what it's saying is, you know, we've got a source of animation data, of visibility data from the Lich, and a source of visibility data from the Crypt Fiend. And when we've merged 2 animations, inherently the code wouldn't know which one to use. So I'm telling it, are we going to use the original, in this case the Lich visibility, or if I uncheck it, are we going to use Crypt Fiend data because it's a merged animation, because it has data coming in from 2 sources. By unchecking it, now I'm telling it, all right, we're going to use that Crypt Fiend visibility data. We're going to use the non-original, sort of the other of the 2 when we're combining it. So I'll do that. That's going to make the Lich's body disappear when the Crypt Fiend is burrowed. The other thing is, all this other stuff, as far as I can tell, is all the glow planes on the Lich, everything from 4 onward. So we're going to have all of that stuff have a setting to be not visible in existing animation. And this, because there exists the stand alternate, and we didn't push any Lich data into stand alternate, there's not an option for component original visibility in that case, right? My code doesn't know in stand alternate what the Lich should do because I didn't push any Lich animation data into that stand alternate animation. So to make up for that, it will just only use, regardless of this checkbox, it will just only use the existing animation visibility in that case. So by choosing not visible, I'm saying in that case where it has only one possible option, that is the existing model as a source of visibility data, which in this case is stand alternate because the Lich had no stand alternate and I merged nothing into that animation. Then not visible is just going to use that source of information and is going to then not be visible in stand alternate. For me, as I got used to this process, it's very logical. Now that I'm describing it, it sounds very complicated. I hope that doesn't. I hope that's not a turnoff for you, right? But it should be generally true that most of these things would follow that principle here. And I guess maybe what I'm going to do is put geoset 1 on most of these. I've just remembered we actually don't probably want the origin and overhead of the Lich, but I think we want the rest there. So we'll get all that data. Let's click finish and let's see what we got. So again, this will import into the Crypt Fiend, loads the additional mesh, and we can start to toggle it on so we start to see it. Obviously, this program has no ability to preview animations. There's like animation view. This thing's fake. Don't use that. But what it does do is it'll give us the ability to see the data that we've imported here. And you can see this top half of this Lich guy. Looks like due to some sort of texturing error, it doesn't have the texture on it. But I'm pretty sure that texturing error would not actually be present in the ultimate final model. So let me go ahead and save this. I'm actually just curious if the texturing error is in the model data or the program. I believe it's the program. We're going to call this guy the Crypt Lich, and then I'm going to open the Crypt Lich up. We're gonna double check. Yeah. So that texturing error that we see is not actually a part of the model data. That is my code failing to render correctly. The underlying structures that merge and build the model are still working. So then what we're going to do is I'm thinking like we'll make the Lich a little bit bigger, right? Try to merge it on there to look good. And also, I don't really like the way that there's this sort of fork in the shape. So maybe if I move the Lich down a bit, what I would want to do, I'm going to turn off all this stuff. I want to take this forked Crypt Fiend shape thing and bring it in a little bit. Try to make it just mesh onto that Lich a little bit better, hopefully. Maybe we'll merge, or maybe we'll move the Lich's stuff like down, sort of cover it up, if possible, something like that. So I'm actually really curious if our animation splicing worked today. So let's go ahead and save again as Crypt Lich 2. I don't care. And then what I'm going to do is open Magos. We're going to go to Documents, Warcraft, Software. I got Magos in here. War3 Model Editor. All right. And what we want to do is we want to see. So I'm using this as an animation viewer, right? I'm not sure what I had open before there, but let's go to Crypt Lich 2 and let's see our product in terms of its viability. Now I know we'll be prepared, and things don't always work. Like I said, it's my first time making this particular model, but in general it looks like we've got things working more or less how we would expect. We do have some Lich animations going on there in stand 2. Stand alternate, the Lich is not visible. The Lich is doing sort of the Lich's walk animation in walk there. So I mean it's a little bit odd, right, because the Lich was originally floating, but you can tell that we do have an animated product. Things have merged sort of as we would expect, and in particular the hand glows and the attack, the frost breath sort of animations are all still present here on the Lich. So if I was making this, I think the last thing I would probably do would be to tweak some of the interconnection stuff here, right? The way that this geometry fits together, because you can see that the tip of the Crypt Fiend there is attached to some other node that's moving. We would want to just have that move with the base of the Lich. That would be we'd want to hook that together so it didn't seem as silly there. But from a bird's eye view, like from the actual Warcraft game, this model is probably going to generally work and appear pretty much how we would intend. So with that, I think that sort of concludes my video. I'm gonna go ahead and send this to Grendel, and hopefully it'll help anyone else who also faces a sort of similar design challenge if they want to try to do that sort of process with a Warcraft character model. So with that, I hope you have a good day, and I hope all your model coding works out.